Welcome to Dodgers Daily. I'm Casey Porter. I'm so glad that you've decided to tune in. Hey, we have a great show for you today. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to recap last night's big win in Game 1 of the National League Divisional Series for the Dodgers. Then we're going to set you up for Game 2. But before we get started, and before we get into it too much, just a reminder, if you like this video, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and click that like button, leave a comment, tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily, and share this video so we can keep growing and keep providing you content like this in the future, okay? The Dodgers took a 1-0 lead in the National League Divisional Series last night. The Dodgers scored 2 in the first inning. They scored 3 in the third inning and then rode that 5-0 lead all the way to the finish line. The Padres, they started Mike Clevinger. Clevinger did not have success. It was an interesting decision to start him. He had not had success against the Dodgers in the past. He did not have success last night. The Dodgers are just a terrible matchup for him. They were a terrible matchup last night, so the Dodgers got off to a big 5-0 lead. It proved to be enough as Evan Phillips probably got the 3 biggest outs in the 6th inning, and then Chris Martin got the last 3 outs. Brusdar Graterol got his man, and Juan Soto. And then Alex Vesia got 5 big outs. So it was a big win last night. Will Smith had an RBI double, and Trey Turner had 2 hits. Both Will Smith and Trey Turner both had 2 hits. And the Dodgers scored 5 runs early and then held on late with the bullpen that has been just fantastic this year. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it, and let's go ahead and recap last night's action, and let's talk Dodgers baseball. Trey Turner got the scoring started last night for the 2022 postseason. Turner hit .298 and had 100 RBIs in the regular season, and you can make that 101 now for the year as he hit the home run last night to get the Dodgers started to make it 1-0 in the game against the Padres. Turner was hitting .296 off of Mike Clevinger coming into last night, so it was a good matchup for the Dodgers. It was a good matchup for Turner, one that he took advantage of to hit a home run, the one that you're seeing here to give the Dodgers a 1-0 lead, a lead that they would never relinquish. Julio Urias did a good job of pitching backwards in the early innings, but got touched for 3 runs in the 5th inning, but the bullpen held up and gave him the win. Urias threw his slurve 33% of the time, and he lands it in the zone 60% of the time, and that helped him cruise all the way up to the 5th, and then Will Myers hit the home run. The Padres got a couple of more hits and then did a good job, simply put, situational hitting to score 2 more runs to make it 3 in the 5th inning. That chased Urias, but he did end up getting the win as the Dodgers bullpen held up, and the Dodgers now have a 1-0 lead in the series. The Padres may be rethinking starting Mike Clevinger, make it a bullpen game or something, not because he's not a good pitcher, because he is a good pitcher, just because the Dodgers are just not a good matchup for him, because Clevinger only lands his slider in the strike zone 40% of the time, and his 4-seam has a 50% hard rate as we saw last night. The Dodgers were just simply a team that weren't going to chase that slider. They weren't going to chase the 2-seam in, so they were going to force him to throw fastballs in the zone that catch a lot of the plate. When they did, they were going to attack it, and that's what they did early in the game last night. So from a matchup perspective, it was not a good one for Mike Clevinger. The Dodgers took advantage of that for 5 early runs and rode that to the victory. More of the same in terms of talking about matchups of being a broken record. Will Smith and Trey Turner laid off the slider in the 3rd inning and the 2-seam in, as I was talking about just a minute ago, then got very hittable fastballs and a hanging slider, and they did damage. Both Smith and Turner went 2 for 4 on the night. Each had an RBI in the big 5-0 win for the Dodgers. Evan Phillips did his thing, although it got a little bit hairy after he gave up, or after the first 2 guys got on base, I should say. He posted a 1.14 ERA on the year. Phillips did a whip of 0.76 and a strikeout-to-walk ratio of 5-1. He had an ERA of 0.90 and 12 strikeouts in 10 appearances against the Padres in his career coming into last night after allowing the first 2 hitters, as I mentioned a minute ago, to get on base. He then blanked the Padres in his 1 inning of work, thanks in large part to this big-time double play started by Gavin Lux at second base. Made a great play, threw it to Trey Turner, who then threw it back to first base, made a good throw. That was a huge play, probably the biggest play of the game. It was probably the play of the game. It was probably the 3 biggest outs as Phillips got right through the middle of the order of the Padres. So that was a huge inning. And it feels like I said, those were the 3 biggest outs. And then Chris Martin, when he closed the game, got the last 3 outs. But Evan Phillips. Wow, and high drama last night. Another interesting decision, in my opinion, was for the Padres to burn Steven Wilson, and not because he hasn't had success against the Dodgers. It's because he has had success. He hadn't given up a run in 8.1 innings and had 10 strikeouts against the Dodgers coming into last night, and they brought him in when they were already down 4-0, and it was very risky because the odds were they were probably going to lose that game, especially with Urias on the bump and the bullpen being fresh for the Dodgers. So you risked what exactly happened, losing the game and then losing Wilson for tonight's game, Game 2, all in one swoop, and that's exactly what happened to the Padres. The Padres bullpen definitely did their job, and they blanked the Dodgers for the last 6.1 innings with guys that, other than Wilson that we talked about just a second ago, don't usually have a lot of success against the Dodgers, but it was too little too late by the time the bullpen got a hold of the game. The Dodgers already had a 4-0 lead, eventually a 5-0 lead, and then they rode that to the finish line. So the bullpen did a good job last night for the Padres, but it was too little and too late. Alex Vesia got 5 huge outs for the Dodgers and held the lead in the back half of the game. Vesia has an ERA of, check this out, 0.00. Can't get any better than that, and he has 16 strikeouts in 12 innings against the Padres. In his career, he has allowed just 1 earned run in his last 27 innings and has an average against of just 130 against lefties. So Alex Vesia, look at him. He's excited. He should have been. He did a great job, and he has done a great job all year for the Dodgers. Chris Martin collected his first postseason save last night by getting the last 3 outs of the game to clinch Game 1 for the Dodgers and give the Dodgers a 1-0 lead in the National League Divisional Series. Martin had an ERA of 6.75 and 12 strikeouts in 12 innings against the Padres in his career coming into last night, but he cruised to the 9th inning stress-free. He has not allowed an earned run in 12 straight outings. Chris Martin has done a great job for the Dodgers. So there you have it. There are the highlights of last night's game, the big win in Game 1 of the National League Divisional Series that gave the Dodgers the 1-0 lead in the series. But as we wake up on Wednesday, you have to turn the tide. You have to move on past Game 1. You have to start looking into Game 2. So what is Game 2 going to look like? It is Darvis for the Padres. It is the Hall of Famer Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers. And, last night, Game 1, I felt like was a must-win for the Dodgers because the Padres have Darvish and they have Snell back-to-back, the 2 guys they're relying on to win their games in the series. So if you'd have lost last night, you'd have been looking at the prospects of facing those 2 pitchers in back-to-back games, being down 1-0, and that would have been very tough. So I felt like last night was a must-win for the Dodgers. I think that it's flipped now because Darvish is one of the 2 pitchers that the Padres really need to win their game in this series if they want to have a chance to beat the Dodgers, and that is Darvish tonight. So tonight I think is a must-win game for the Padres because if they go down 2-0, then Blake Snell has to win his game. Then they have to figure out 2 wins other than Snell or Darvish in this series, and that would be very, very difficult. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and break down this matchup tonight. Again, Clayton Kershaw for the Dodgers, Darvish for the San Diego Padres. The Dodgers have a 1-0 lead in the divisional series, so it's going to be very exciting. I cannot wait to watch it last night. Let's start with Darvish. He is a 6-pitch pitcher. He is a very good pitcher. So, we're very familiar with him as Dodgers fans. He used to be with the Dodgers, and I think a lot of Dodgers fans probably have that 2017 postseason memory in their memory bank. But other than a couple of years, Darvish actually has been very good in the playoffs. So I think that may be a false or a misnomer in the Dodgers' minds as far as a memory of Darvish. But let's not waste more time. Let's get into it, and let's break down tonight's matchup between Darvish, Clayton Kershaw, the Dodgers, and the Padres. Darvish is a 36-year-old, as we mentioned a minute ago, former Dodger that is with his 4th club and is having the 3rd best season of his career in terms of ERA and the best season of his career in terms of WHIP. Darvish has a lifetime ERA of 3.50, a WHIP of 1.13, and a strikeout-to-walk ratio of 3.73 to 1. He has outperformed every one of those statistical measures in 2022 by posting a 3.10 ERA, a WHIP of just 0.95, and a strikeout-to-walk ratio of 5.32 to 1. 5.32 to 1 with strikeout-to-walk ratio. Dodgers fans, as I mentioned a minute ago, you might have a lasting impression the playoffs in 2017. Again, other than 2 seasons, and he's pitched a lot in the playoffs as far as years pitched in the playoffs. You might have that lasting impression in your mind from the 2017 performance that Darvis gave the Dodgers, where he struggled, giving up 10 runs in 14 innings during the postseason of 2017, and that was on the heels of a 2016 where he struggled then too. So Dodgers fans might have that impression in their mind, but other than those 2 seasons, he has been he's had the chance to pitch in the playoffs in 3 other seasons, and he's been very good. Most recently in 2020 with the Cubs, then in the divisional series this year where he beat the Mets by going 7 and giving up just 1 run while recording 4 strikeouts, and he walked no one. Of course, he had a big lead, so he was able to settle in and get comfortable. So I would hesitate and caution Dodgers fans of having that 2017 memory and just thinking that's what Yu Darvish is. He has been better than that in most occasions other than that. So let's talk about Darvish against the Dodgers. He has faced the Dodgers 3 times this year. He has 6 times total in his career, most recently on September 2nd. His worst outing against the Dodgers was the first time he faced L.A. in July. He gave up 5 runs in that outing and 8 hits in 6 innings. But in his last 2 outings, Darvish has been good. In his last outing in September, on September 2nd, he actually blanked the Dodgers in 7 innings, and he struck out 9 and walked just 2. So he has recent success against the Dodgers and certainly has the motivation to prove to his former team that his performance, as we mentioned a minute ago, in 2017 in those playoffs was a fluke and not the standard for him. So let's go ahead and get into some of his stuff, and let's talk about the pitches that Yu Darvish is going to throw tonight to the Dodgers. Darvish offers 6 pitches and throws his cutter the most, followed by his 4-seam, and one of, if not the main aspects that makes him so tough to hit is that he is not heavily reliant on just one pitch. He throws a lot of pitches, and he throws them a lot, all of them. That makes him very hard to game plan for because you can't just simply sit on one pitch, and that's because he only throws his cutter, the pitch he throws the most, just 35% of the time. So his cutter that he throws the most, he throws just 35% of the time. So hitters just simply can't sit on a pitch or say, hey, we're going to lay off this pitch and look for this other one and just sit on that. His cutter sits at 86, 87, and it records a whiff rate of 25%, a hard hit percentage of 36%. So the pitch can be hard to barrel up as well, and sometimes hard to hit just in the first place hit at all. So, you know, that cutter's a good pitch for him. But like I said, he is unpredictable as far as the pitches he's going to throw. He has a big variety of pitches. You can expect the Dodgers to get a heavy dose of this pitch right here, the cutter, for Yu Darvish in the 86-mile-an-hour range. He throws it, like I said, about 35% of the time. He throws it more than any other pitch in his arsenal. Darvish will feature both a 4-seam and a 2-seam fastball that both sit at 95 miles an hour. His 4-seam is his second favorite pitch as he throws it 24% of the time, and then he'll sprinkle in a couple handfuls of his 2-seam sinkers. And his 4-seam has a whiff rate of 22% and a hard hit percentage of 46%. So the Dodgers, this is the one pitch when they get that 4-seam fastball, you can bet the Dodgers will be very aggressive against that pitch and force Darvish to land everything else in the zone to have success, something of which he is totally capable of doing. So Dodgers are going to have to identify that 4-seam fastball when they get it, and when it's in the zone, they're going to have to get all over it and be aggressive with it. So that's going to be a good cat and mouse game to look forward tonight. Darvish used his slider more than any other secondary pitch other than his cutter and throws it 19% of the time. It sits 82-83 and has a hard hit rate of 33%, a whiff rate of 27%, and lands in the strike zone more than 50% of the time. So he forces hitters to have to swing at it, and he plays the odds which are in his favor with this slider pitch that hitters won't hit this pitch hard because a slider, like I said, it moves away from the barrel. So there is Yu Darvish's slider and how he uses it. Darvish will throw 7-10 split-finger fastballs tonight and a handful of curveballs a game tonight, and does a decent job landing them for strikes. He's thrown his curveball in the zone for about 50% of the time. So like his slider, hitters have to be ready to swing at his curveball, and when they do, they only make hard contact about 7% of the time. So when Darvish does throw his curveball, it is a good pitch at 80 to 82. It's very effective when he does throw it. As would be expected, he has the hardest time controlling his split finger. That is a tough pitch to control of any pitch he throws. So to get it to land in the zone, he kind of has to choke up on it and not get it to move quite as much. So when that happens, it makes it very hittable, and that's evidenced by the fact that his hard hit contact is high on that, and it's almost 40% of the time that hitters make hard contact on his split finger. So I don't expect him to throw a whole lot of split fingers, just enough to keep the Dodgers hitters off balance. So there you have it. There's the breakdown of Darvish and all the pitches that he brings and all the pitches that the Dodgers are going to have to face tonight. Again, he does a great job of keeping hitters off balance by the hitters not knowing what pitch is coming, and then by keeping them off balance in terms of just simply changing speeds, changing shapes on the hitters. So I think tonight is going to be a very, very, very difficult matchup for the Dodgers. And again, he's had good success his last 2 times out and had really good success his very last time out. So let's go ahead and move. Let's change gears. Let's go ahead and move to the Dodgers side. Let's talk about Clayton Kershaw, the Hall of Famer. We all know about him, the lefty. And let's talk about what he brings and what you can look for tonight and the cat and mouse keys to the game in terms of the matchup between Clayton Kershaw and the Padres. Clayton Kershaw, as we all know, is a Hall of Famer who had a Hall of Fame kind of year in 2022, although he fell below the threshold to be considered a qualified player, which means his stats are not applied to the statistical leaders in the league. Kershaw posted a 2.28 ERA, which if he qualified would be tied for the second best ERA in the National League. It would be tied for the 5th best in all of baseball. As an example of just how great Kershaw has been, as good as his ERA was this year, it is the 6th best that he has posted in his illustrious 15-year career. He also posted a whip of just 0.94, which would be the best in the National League and second best in the major leagues behind only Justin Verlander. Kershaw has also posted a strikeout to walk ratio of 5.6 to 1. Check that out. 5.6 to 1 strikeout to walk ratio, and an average against of just 208 this year, which would be the 6th best in the National League if he qualified. Kershaw features 5 pitchers. He featured 5 pitches in 2022 and is one of the rare pitchers that don't throw his fastball the highest percentage of the time. His slider actually has become his go-to pitch. We just saw it here just a second ago on this video, and he throws it about 43% of the time, which is 3% higher than his fastball. So kind of unusual. There's that slider that Kershaw does not throw his fastball more than any other pitch. We see that mostly with pitchers in today's modern day of analytics in the game of baseball, but he does throw his slider 3% more than he throws his fastball and 26% more than any other pitch that he throws. So look for Clayton Kershaw to use that slider and have everything play off of it like he has done. Of course, he has the big-time curveball. His curveball has been just simply elite through his entire career. So you're going to see the big curveball, the slider, and the fastball, which his curveball used to be his go-to secondary pitch, and it gets thrown about 16% of the time. Now, it used to be, like I said, his go-to pitch as far as the secondaries. And not only is his slider his go-to secondary pitch, like I mentioned, his slider is his go-to pitch. All in all, he throws it more than any other pitch. And then Clayton Kershaw will sprinkle in about 1 sinker and then about 1 changeup per game. So that is his arsenal. And again, he'll try to keep the Padres off balance. He is a Hall of Famer. There is a 1-0 lead in the series, so it sets up very well for the Dodgers. But like I said, I think Darvish is going to be a pretty tough matchup tonight for Los Angeles. So there's that slider again at 86. There is that 4-seam on the outer half at 91. So you come slider in with the right turn, then there's a slider that gets a little bit of depth to it. Then you come to the back foot with that right turn. Then you hit that 4-seam on the outer half, and then you get that tumble to it and get the downward effect to give every shape and look to a hitter, every different kind of speed. You can pitch backwards, Clayton Kershaw can, so you keep the hitters off balance, and then you locate, you keep it down in the zone like you did right there, make it hard to elevate the baseball, make the other team get a whole bunch of hits in a row, kind of like Urias was doing last night until the 5th inning to score a whole bunch of runs. That's been a very successful formula for Kershaw in his career, Hall of Fame career. Hopefully it is a very successful formula tonight against the Padres and gives the Dodgers a 2-0 lead that would be very commanding in this series. So there you have it. There's the breakdown of last night's game and the preview for tonight's game. It promises to be very, very exciting. And the cat and mouse games are very intriguing. Darvis, can the Dodgers identify that four seam, get aggressive against that pitch? And when they are, can they barrel it up? Can they lay off of all of his other secondary pitches? And when they do, can he land them in the strike zone? Something of which, as I mentioned a minute ago, he is very capable of doing. And then for Clayton Kershaw, that slider, can the Padres hit it? Can they lay off of it when it's not a strike? And when it's in the zone, can they hit it? And then can Clayton Kershaw keep the fastball down in the zone and then keep it on the outer half where the Padres have a very difficult time hitting that pitch? And then how many curveballs will he throw? How many changeups? All those kinds of cat and mouse games, those are going to be very interesting to watch tonight. So, hey, I'm so glad that you decided to tune in to today's edition of Dodgers Daily, and make sure and tune in tomorrow as we will relive tonight's highlights of tonight's game, and then set you up for Game 3 tomorrow in Dodgers Daily. So I'm so glad that you've tuned in to Dodgers Daily today. Make sure and tune in tomorrow. And just as a reminder, hey, go ahead and visit DodgersDaily.net or visit Dodgers Daily on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. Also, become a subscriber to our Dodgers Daily podcast on the podcast streaming service of your choice. And also, as a reminder, if you like this video, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and click that like button, leave a comment, tell all your friends about Dodgers Daily, and share this video so we can keep growing at DodgersDaily.net, and we can also keep providing you content like this in the future. As always, thanks for tuning in, and go Dodgers.